The bank alert notification pinged on my phone at 3:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Large withdrawal from business account number 4792. Amount, $50,000. I sat up in bed, instantly awake, staring at the screen. My consulting business account rarely had withdrawals over $5,000, and I certainly hadn't authorized any transfers at 3 a.m. I grabbed my laptop and logged into my business banking portal. There it was, an electronic transfer of $50,000 from my operating account to an account I didn't recognize. The transfer had been initiated using my business online banking credentials, but the receiving account belonged to Mitchell Construction LLC, a company I'd never heard of. But I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly who had access to my business banking information. My father-in-law, Robert Mitchell, had been helping me with bookkeeping for my IT consulting firm for the past 6 months. He was a retired accountant who'd offered to assist with my business finances after my regular bookkeeper moved out of state. During that time, he'd had full access to my business accounts, passwords, and financial records. I immediately called the bank's fraud hotline and reported the unauthorized transfer. The representative confirmed that the transfer had been made using legitimate online banking credentials, but to an account that wasn't on my approved payee list. "Mr. Harrison, this appears to be an authorized transfer from your business account to Mitchell Construction LLC. Do you have a business relationship with this entity?" "No, I don't. This is fraud. I need this transfer reversed immediately and the account frozen. I'll flag this as potential fraud and freeze your account. You'll need to come in tomorrow morning to file a formal complaint and provide documentation." As a cybersecurity consultant specializing in financial systems, I understood exactly how digital fraud worked and how to document it properly. My business was built on protecting companies from exactly this kind of internal theft. I maintained comprehensive logging systems for all my business operations, including detailed audit trails of who accessed what information and when. I pulled up my business network logs and found the smoking gun. Robert's laptop had accessed my business banking portal at 3:15 a.m. using my saved credentials. But he'd made a crucial mistake. He'd forgotten that my system logged every keystroke and mouse click on the business network. The keystroke logs showed him navigating to the transfer page, entering the routing number for Mitchell Construction LLC, and setting up the $50,000 transfer. He'd even searched my business records for available cash flow to determine how much he could steal without immediately triggering my attention. But the most damning evidence was in my security camera system. Robert had a key to my home office since he came by twice a week to work on bookkeeping. The cameras showed him entering my office at 3:10 a.m., using my computer to access the banking portal and making the fraudulent transfer. He'd clearly thought that doing it in the middle of the night would delay detection. The next morning, I arrived at the bank with printed evidence of the fraud. The branch manager, Jennifer Walsh, reviewed my documentation with growing alarm. "Mr. Harrison, this is sophisticated embezzlement. Your father-in-law used his legitimate access to your business systems to steal $50,000. The digital evidence you've collected is comprehensive. Robert has been my bookkeeper for 6 months. He had access to all my business accounts and knew exactly how much money I had available. This wasn't opportunistic theft, it was calculated embezzlement. We'll reverse the transfer immediately and freeze the Mitchell Construction account. You need to contact law enforcement right away. This level of premeditation suggests federal charges." I called FBI Special Agent Lisa Chun from the Financial Crimes Division. I'd worked with her office before on cybersecurity consulting contracts, so she knew my reputation for thorough documentation. "Agent Chun, this is David Harrison from Harrison Cybersecurity. I need to report embezzlement by a family member. I have complete digital evidence including network logs, security footage, and banking records." "How much money are we talking about?" $50,000 stolen from my business account by my father-in-law, who had legitimate access as my bookkeeper. I have video evidence of him making the transfer and digital logs proving premeditation. That's federal embezzlement. Can you come in this afternoon? Bring everything you have. At 2 p.m. I sat in Agent Chen's office with a thick folder of evidence. The documentation was overwhelming: bank records showing the fraudulent transfer, network logs proving Robert had accessed my systems, security camera footage of him in my office at 3 a.m., and keystroke logs showing exactly how he'd executed the theft. David, this is some of the most complete embezzlement evidence I've seen, Agent Chin said, reviewing the materials. Your father-in-law made every mistake possible from a digital forensics perspective. He's a traditional accountant who doesn't understand modern cybersecurity. He had no idea that my business systems log everything and that I have security cameras recording all access to my office. Agent Chin examined the bank records. He transferred the money to his own construction company account. That shows clear intent to permanently deprive you of the funds, which meets the legal definition of embezzlement. What kind of charges are we looking at? Federal embezzlement, wire fraud, and possibly computer fraud since he accessed your systems without authorization for criminal purposes. With $50,000 involved, he's looking at 3 to 5 years in federal prison. That evening, I went home to find my wife Sarah cooking dinner. She had no idea that her father had just stolen $50,000 from our business account. "How was your day?" she asked cheerfully. "Interesting. There was some unusual activity in the business account that I had to investigate." "Oh no, was it hackers? I know you deal with that kind of thing all the time." "Something like that. I'm working with the authorities to resolve it." An hour later, Robert arrived for our weekly family dinner, carrying a bottle of wine and acting completely normal. He hugged Sarah, shook my hand, and settled into his usual chair at our dining table. "How's business going, David?" he asked with genuine seeming interest. "The quarterly reports I've been working on show really strong cash flow." "Business is good," I replied calmly. "Cash flow has been excellent this quarter." "You know," Robert said, cutting into his steak, "you're making more money than most people our age could dream of. Sometimes I think you don't fully appreciate how fortunate you are." "You're probably right about that." Robert warmed to his theme. "Family money should help family, you know? When someone in the family is struggling financially, those who are blessed with abundance should step up and share the wealth." Sarah nodded approvingly. "Dad's right. We should always help family when we can." "Absolutely," I agreed. "Family is the most important thing." Robert looked pleased with my response. "I'm glad you understand that perspective. Too many people get selfish with money and forget about their family obligations." After dinner, Robert pulled me aside in my home office while Sarah was cleaning up in the kitchen. "David, I want to talk to you about something important," he said, closing the office door behind him. "My construction company is going through a rough patch. The economy has been tough on small contractors, and I'm facing some serious cash flow problems." "I'm sorry to hear that, Robert. How serious are we talking?" "I need about $50,000 to cover outstanding invoices and keep the business afloat. I was hoping you might consider it as a family investment. You make too much money anyway, and this would really help me save my company." I looked at him with what I hoped appeared to be sympathetic concern. "That's a significant amount of money, Robert." "I know it is, but it's not that much for someone in your financial position. You probably spend more than that on business equipment and travel. This would be helping family in a time of need." "When would you need this investment?" "As soon as possible. I've already taken some preliminary steps to address the cash flow crisis, but I need to formalize the funding quickly." "I see. Let me think about it overnight and we can discuss the details tomorrow." Robert smiled with relief. "I knew you'd understand. Family has to stick together during difficult times." The next morning I called Agent Chin with an update. "My father-in-law approached me last night asking for a $50,000 investment in his construction company. He claims it's to solve cash flow problems, but he's actually asking me to legitimize the money he already stole." "That's perfect. He's trying to cover up the embezzlement by making it look like a legitimate business transaction after the fact. That shows consciousness of guilt." "What's the next step?" "We're executing a search warrant on his business and personal premises tomorrow morning. We want to seize all evidence of the embezzlement and any other financial crimes he might be committing." "Should I play along with his request for the investment?" "Don't commit to anything, but don't refuse either. We want him to think his plan is working until we arrest him." The next morning Robert called me at 9 a.m. "David, have you thought about our conversation yesterday? I really need to know if you can help with the business investment." "I'm definitely interested in helping family," I said carefully. "Let me review my business finances and see what I can do." "That's wonderful. I knew I could count on you. Family money should help family after all." At 10:30 a.m. my phone rang. It was Agent Chin. We've executed the search warrants. Your father-in-law has been arrested on federal charges of embezzlement, wire fraud and computer fraud. We found evidence of additional thefts from other family members and business associates. Additional thefts? He's been running a pattern of financial exploitation. We found records showing he's stolen money from your mother-in-law's retirement account, borrowed against his brother's home without permission, and embezzled from 2 previous clients when he was doing freelance bookkeeping. How did he react to being arrested? Shock then anger. He kept insisting that family money should be shared and that you make too much anyway. He doesn't seem to understand that embezzlement is a crime regardless of the victim's income level. That afternoon I received a frantic call from Sarah at work. David, something terrible has happened. Dad's been arrested by the FBI. They're saying he stole money from your business account. This has to be some kind of mistake. I'm coming home right now. We need to talk. When I arrived home, I found Sarah crying at our kitchen table with her mother, Patricia, who was also distraught. David, please tell me this is all a misunderstanding, Patricia said. The FBI agents said Robert stole $50,000 from your business. That can't be true. I sat down and explained the situation as gently as possible. Robert used his access to my business systems to transfer $50,000 to his construction company account. I have security camera footage of him making the transfer from my office at 3 a.m. Sarah stared at me in shock. You have video evidence of my father stealing from you? Yes. And digital logs showing he'd been planning this for weeks, researching my cash flow to determine how much he could take. Why didn't you tell me about this when it happened? I wanted to gather all the evidence and work with law enforcement before discussing it with family. I didn't want to make accusations without being absolutely certain. Patricia was defensive. Robert would never steal from family. There has to be another explanation. I showed them the bank records, the security footage, and the digital evidence. The proof was overwhelming and undeniable. Sarah broke down crying. I can't believe my father would do this to us. We trusted him with our business finances. It gets worse, I said gently. The FBI found evidence that he's been stealing from other family members too. Your mother's retirement account, Uncle Bill's home equity, and money from his previous bookkeeping clients. Patricia went pale. My retirement account? But Robert manages all my finances. You need to check all your accounts immediately and contact the FBI if you find any unauthorized transactions. The preliminary hearing was held a week later. I testified about the evidence I'd collected and explained how Robert had used his legitimate access to my business systems to commit embezzlement. Robert's defense attorney tried to portray the theft as a misunderstanding, claiming Robert believed he had permission to take an advance on future bookkeeping fees. But the security camera footage showing him sneaking into my office at 3 a.m. and the recorded conversation where he admitted the money wasn't his completely undermined that defense. The federal prosecutor played audio from my home security system where Robert said, "Family money should help family. David makes too much money anyway. He probably won't even notice $50,000 missing from his business account." The judge was not sympathetic to Robert's justifications. Mr. Mitchell, regardless of your opinions about your son-in-law's income, taking $50,000 from his business account without permission constitutes federal embezzlement. Robert was bound over for trial on charges of embezzlement, wire fraud, computer fraud, and elder abuse, for stealing from Patricia's retirement account. Bail was set at $75,000, which he couldn't afford since his assets had been frozen. While Robert sat in federal detention, I received pressure from family members to drop the charges. Sarah's brother Michael called me, "David, you're destroying our family over money. Dad made a mistake, but sending him to federal prison is extreme. Michael, your father stole $50,000 from my business and money from your mother's retirement account. This wasn't a mistake, it was systematic embezzlement. But he's family. You should have worked this out privately instead of involving the FBI." There's nothing to work out privately. Robert committed federal crimes. He betrayed the trust one placed in him as my bookkeeper and stole money that I need to run my business. Patricia also tried to convince me to show mercy. "David, Robert is deeply sorry for what he did. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive family?" "Patricia, Robert stole from you too. He took money from your retirement account without permission. How can you ask me to forgive someone who stole from both of us?" He's my husband. I have to stand by him. Standing by someone doesn't mean enabling their criminal behavior or asking their victims to ignore felonies. 3 months later, facing overwhelming evidence and the prospect of additional charges related to his theft from other family members, Robert accepted a plea bargain. He pled guilty to embezzlement and wire fraud in exchange for a reduced sentence of 4 years in federal prison. At the sentencing hearing, Robert was allowed to make a statement to the court. "Your Honor, I know what I did was wrong. I was facing financial difficulties with my business, and I made terrible decisions that hurt my family and violated my son-in-law's trust." He turned to look at me in the gallery. "David, I'm sorry for what I did. I betrayed your trust and stole money that you worked hard to earn. I convinced myself that family should share wealth, but I realize now that theft is theft regardless of family relationships." The judge sentenced Robert to 4 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. He was also ordered to pay $78,000 in restitution covering the embezzled money plus penalties and investigation costs. After the sentencing, Agent Chen spoke with me in the courthouse hallway. "How do you feel about the outcome?" "Relieved that it's over, but sad about the damage to family relationships. Robert's choices have torn our family apart. Your evidence collection made this case airtight. Without your cybersecurity expertise and comprehensive logging systems, it would have been much harder to prove the embezzlement. Robert assumed that because I trusted him with my business finances, I wouldn't have security measures in place to detect theft. He was wrong." 6 months later, I received a letter from Robert, written from federal prison. "Dear David, I've had a lot of time to think about what I did and why I did it. I was jealous of your financial success and resentful that someone your age was making more money than I ever had. Instead of being proud of your achievements, I let greed and entitlement drive me to betray your trust. I know now that my actions could have seriously damaged your business. That $50,000 wasn't just cash sitting in an account. It was operating capital that you needed to pay employees, cover expenses, and invest in growth. I put your livelihood at risk to solve my own financial problems. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I understand why you had to involve law enforcement. You were protecting your business from further theft, just like any business owner should when they discover embezzlement. The other inmates here think I'm crazy for not being angry at you for turning in family. But you didn't turn me in. You documented evidence of crimes I committed against your business. There's a difference between reporting crimes and betraying family. I hope someday Sarah can forgive me for what I've done to our family. I know my choices have caused her tremendous pain and embarrassment. Robert." I never responded to that letter. Robert served 3.5 years of his 4-year sentence and was released on good behavior. He now works part-time at a hardware store and lives in a small apartment across town. Sarah and I have rebuilt our relationship, but it took months of counseling to work through the trust issues and family trauma. She struggled with guilt about her father's crimes and anger about the position he'd put our family in. Patricia divorced Robert while he was in prison and moved to Florida to live near her sister. She recovered most of her stolen retirement money through restitution payments, but the betrayal destroyed their 30-year marriage. Some family members still believe I should have handled it within the family, instead of involving federal law enforcement. They think Robert's punishment was too harsh for what they call a family financial dispute. But embezzlement isn't a family financial dispute. Stealing $50,000 from someone's business account isn't a family matter. When someone uses their position of trust to systematically steal money from your business, that's a federal crime, regardless of whether they're married to your daughter. Robert gambled that family relationships would protect him from the consequences of his crimes. He assumed I would be too embarrassed, too guilty, or too concerned about family harmony to pursue federal charges against my father-in-law. He was wrong. Family relationships don't create immunity from federal law. Trust, once broken by embezzlement and theft, cannot be repaired by simply asking for forgiveness or claiming financial desperation. And someone who is willing to steal from your business to solve their own problems has demonstrated that they value their convenience more than your livelihood. I maintained comprehensive cybersecurity measures because protecting against financial fraud is my profession, but also because I learned that embezzlers often target people who trust them with financial access, counting on family relationships to shield them from prosecution. Robert spent weeks planning his embezzlement, confident that I would never detect the theft or never have enough evidence to prosecute him if I did. The security cameras, network logs, keystroke monitoring, and banking records proved him wrong. Sometimes protecting your business means being willing to prosecute the people who are supposed to love your family. Sometimes family loyalty means being loyal to legal boundaries instead of criminal behavior. And sometimes the people who tell you that family money should help family are the same people who believe that stealing is acceptable as long as the victim can afford the loss. The sound of the raid beginning that morning wasn't just the sound of justice. It was the sound of consequences catching up with someone who believed family relationships would protect him from federal embezzlement laws. They didn't.